Hi everyone, welcome back to the AI language. So today we are going to take an exciting look at A2A protocol or agent to agent protocol and how it works with two powerful tools, Model Context Protocol and Agent Development Kit. So we'll cover what A2A is, why we need it and how it enables powerful agent collaboration across organizational or technological boundaries. We'll also look at the key components in A2A which you can see on your screen right now and how are the typical flows managed in A2A like discovery, processing and other flows that happen in A2A communication. So if you're a programmer or builder or even just technically curious, you are in the right place. So before we begin, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The AI Language. As a subscriber, you get free access to our complete MCP codebase and also the A2A and ADK codebases that we'll be building. A2A again is Agent to Agent Protocol and ADK is the Agent Development Kit by Google. Links are in the description. Alright, so let's start right at the beginning from a blank slate. To understand A2A, we need to first understand the concept of agents and how they work in the world of large language models or LLMs. So we first have a large language model and LLM is basically the abbreviation for it. So this is like GPT or Gemini and these are trained on massive data sets that can generate natural language responses, write code, summarize documents and reason across many domains. But by default, this large language model is stateless and passive. It waits for a prompt and gives a reply and that's it. To do more, we wrap it inside something smarter. That's what we call an agent. Now to do that, we have an agent framework, which is a software layer that gives this large language model memory, goals and tools. So basically it helps us build systems where an LLM knows what it's trying to do. It can reason step by step and call tools like APIs, search engines or databases. Think of it like turning a simple chatbot into a helpful co-worker with a brain, a to-do list and access to software. Now comes multiple local agents. So inside a single app or organization, we might have multiple agents. So these three can be multiple agents, one for writing, one for analysis and one for database queries, etc. They can collaborate together internally using a shared memory, common context or message passing, and then these together basically form our agent, which basically consists of multiple local agents collaborating together and which is basically called multi-agent collab. Now these agents can actually access tools, resources and other kinds of APIs and enterprise applications through something that we called Model Context Protocol, and we have a full course on this on our YouTube channel. We have already gone through all the details about how MCP works, and MCP basically helps these agents use these APIs and enterprise applications through tools or other resources. But here's the catch. Most agent systems are bounded by their own infrastructure. An agent inside one company or one cloud server cannot easily talk to another agent built elsewhere, say in another company, another data center or another programming language. So this is what we call organizational or technological boundaries, maybe due to API security, network isolation or system compatibility. These agents cannot communicate past this boundary. So what happens when agents need to collaborate across these boundaries? This is where things break down. Two intelligent agents, even if they are both brilliant, can't help each other because there is no common protocol or language for them to communicate. And here is where agent to agent protocol comes into the picture. A2A stands for agent to agent protocol. It's a protocol that lets agents talk to each other across these organizational or technical boundaries. It provides a secure and structured way for agents to discover each other, send messages and share artifacts and collaborate on tasks, all while staying modular and sandboxed in their own environments. So how does A2A work with MCP and ADK? So MCP we've already looked at is the Model Context Protocol, and it helps these agents work with these APIs and enterprise applications through tool discovery or resources and other kind of database queries, etc. ADK over here is the agent development kit that gives you the building blocks to create and deploy agents fast. You could use other agent frameworks like LangGraph, and ADK is one of them by Google. So A2A is basically like giving each agent a passport to travel across systems and collaborate on global problems with other agents. So this is the what and why of A2A. Next, we'll break down the key components of A2A and lifecycle of an A2A interaction, from handshake to response to artifacts shared. Alright, so now let's dive into the core components of A2A, which are basically shown on this particular page as blocks. Also the full lifecycle, which is basically denoted by these arrows and shows the typical flows that happen in A2A protocol communication and how all these work together to bring A2A to life. So let's start with the A2A client. The A2A client is usually an app, script, or another agent. It basically consumes the A2A services and hence it is called the client. The client is the one that sends the requests like task/send, which we look at, to an A2A server's URL. So what is the A2A server? It exposes a set of standard HTTP endpoints defined by the A2A protocol, and it's responsible for receiving requests, processing tasks, and replying with results. Next, we have the agent card. Now here's a really cool part. Each A2A server has a metadata file known as the agent card. This is usually available at /.wellknown/agent.json, which is basically a URL. We call this the well-known URL, and it describes the agent's name and also the description, the capabilities, the skills, the endpoint URL, and any authentication that the agent might require. So this helps the client discover and understand what these agents can do through the A2A server. So a client can simply fetch the agent cards to discover a server's capabilities, and this makes the A2A protocol self-describing and very plug and play. This is what we call discovery, where the A2A client discovers what different agents are available and what they can do. So now we are clear with what a client is and what a server is, and how the client can discover all the different agents through the server, through the discovery flow. So as an example, you might have a client which is a personal assistant agent that's running with every user, and you might have a server that exposes 3 different agents for this personal assistant agent. These might be to book plane tickets, to book hotels, and to book cabs. So your personal assistant agent can basically then discover through the A2A server that there are these 3 agents for helping with travel bookings, and when the user asks the client to book a particular trip for them, this client then might then discover and use these agents to complete this trip booking. So how does that work happen after the discovery process? This happens through tasks, and let's look at that next. So the core unit of work in A2A is called a task. When the client wants something done, it sends a request to start a task using either tasks/send or tasks/send subscribe. Each task has a unique ID associated with it, and it can be in multiple states. So it can be either submitted, or it can be in working state, or it can be on input required state, or completed, failed, or cancelled. So the client basically sends a request to start a task, and inside the request the client sends a message from the user role. So messages represent communication turns between the client, which has the role user, and the agent that's doing the work, which has the role agent, and the message basically is built using parts. A part is a fundamental content unit within a message or an artifact, which we'll look at later. So it can be of 3 types. So it can be either a text part, or a file part, or it can be a data part. The file part can be basically used to represent files with inline bytes or a URI, and the data part can be used for structured JSON example forms. So in short, when the client wants something to be done, it generates a unique task ID and sends the initial user message The task itself contains a message, and the message is basically made of parts, and this officially starts a task on the A2A server. This is what is called as initiation, and this is one of the flows in the A2A protocol that happens after the discovery flow. Alright, so once we have the task that started, as the agent works, it may produce what we call artifacts. So these artifacts are basically structured outputs like final answers or generated files or structured data, and they also follow the same part structure that's followed by tasks and messages. So how does the A2A server communicate its updates to the client? First is the streaming option. For long running tasks where the servers support streaming, clients can use task/send subscribe to enable streaming, and the server then uses server sent events or SSE to push updates like task status, new messages, or the artifacts that are being generated. So the client sees the progress in real time. Alternatively, A2A also supports push notifications, so the clients can set a webhook using tasks/push notification/set. The server will call back when new events occur, and this is great for integrations where polling or streaming isn't practical. So this forms one of the processing mode, which is called the streaming mode. There's also another processing mode which is called the non-streaming mode, and the server does all the work and replies with the final result at the end. The choice depends upon the server capabilities and the use case, and this non-streaming processing flow happens directly from the server to the client, where the server sends back this particular task to the client. Now sometimes the agent may hit a point where it needs more inputs. In that case, it enters what we call the interaction or the input required state. In this case, the client can continue the conversation by sending more messages using the same task ID to the server to satisfy the requirement in this interaction flow. So eventually the tasks will reach a state that we call as completion. So this is a terminal state, and the task can either be completed, failed, or cancelled. At this point the task is done, and the artifacts and message log can be saved or displayed as needed. So that's a detailed look at the core components and life cycle of the A2A protocol. There are agent cards for discovery through the server, where the client can discover what agents are available and what they can do. There are tasks and messages including parts for communication, where the clients can initiate a task with an ID and send it to the server, and this is basically the initiation flow. Then there is two modes for processing, which is the streaming mode and the non-streaming mode, and the server can then basically use artifacts, which are the outputs that it generates, to notify progress to the client in real time, or it can also use push notifications. And on the other side, the processing can happen through the non-streaming mode, where the final result with the task and the same ID can be sent back to the client. Whenever some more information is needed, the interaction flow can basically pass on more messages to the server, and then you'll have a final completion state where the task is completed. Either it's completed successfully, or it gets failed, or it gets cancelled. So A2A in this way is what enables modular, decentralized, and collaborative AI agents to work together no matter where they are hosted. Thanks for watching, and in the next part of this series we'll dive into real A2A JSON payloads. We'll do code walkthroughs using the agent development kit, and how you can build your own agents and connect them across systems. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and see you in the next video.